Good morning, everyone. I know it's quite hard getting up so early in the morning. I know you had a lovely time last night, and party time is always something that we want to offer you when you are attending Paris Med. But here we are back here this morning. We'll be speaking about theft, we'll be speaking about space, and I'm quite sure you'll all be very happy to have the courage to have gotten up and being here. So we'll be starting with a session on the theft of land freight, and at first we thought that maybe a more politically correct title would be in order, but then we thought, right, this is exactly what we're talking about, so let's be honest in our conversation. First of all, Pierre-Antoine, you are a risk manager at GEODIS, right beside you is Pierre Delplanque, head of marine cargo at DIOT SIACI, and Céline LUBRANO, head of security and operational resilience France at DHL, and also representative of TAPA Europe. You'll talk to us about TAPA Europe, which is key and central to our topic for this morning. Starting with you, Céline, actually, very concretely, where do we stand on theft of land freight today in Europe? And perhaps a few words of introduction about TAPA, so that we understand the importance of TAPA in this respect. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me today to speak to you about security. And the more we speak about these topics, the more we can make progress. So it's really important for us to have that conversation. Why am I here today? Well, first of all, because I'm the head of security at DHL Forwarding, more than 23 years experience in this field, but also because I am the lead country for TAPA, which is an association, a for-profit association, which has helped fight since 1997 against crime in logistics, in the supply chain. This association was established when loaders couldn't stand being the prey of theft anymore. They had to constantly call upon investigators and register claims. So then that's when the association was created, to make things right and to remediate the situation. This association is comprised of a large number of members, and also it covers the entire chain of stakeholders in the supply chain. And I'll speak to you about a tool as well, which will be launched very shortly and which will be great to gain efficiency in our fight. So where do we stand on the land freight theft? That's definitely on the agenda still. There will always be dishonest people. There will always be crime in any case. And we're working more and more often, and we're forwarding more and more sensitive cargo. We're somewhat of a weak point in the chain. Remember in the 1980s, when banks were robbed, a number of measures were taken, but now freight forwarding is the weak point in that chain. So we forward highly sensitive freight with high value in circumstances which are hazardous sometimes. What are the current estimates of stolen goods in Europe? Well, we have a few figures which were published by the European Parliament. Indeed, we work with Europol, with the CLDI as well for France. According to the current estimates, more than 8.2 billion euros in lost and stolen goods every year. And out of these 8.2 billion, 2.2 billion euros of stolen goods in Germany. There are a number of studies as well. One needs to be very cautious with statistics, and as a matter of fact, we should be speaking rather about trends as per the enforcement authorities, since not all stolen goods are claimed and registered, and some insurance companies say that themselves. They do not necessarily register any claim since they cannot be reimbursed for the stolen goods in any case. So question now, if we were to list the kind of goods which are stolen, what are we looking at here? Well, the amount I shared with you is the gross amount of stolen goods, but that amount which is given to us does not necessarily correspond to the value of the good as it will be sold. So very often the actual final value of the goods which are stolen are perhaps 5 or 7 times higher. Right here on this slide, you will see a list of those goods which can be transported and which may be stolen. So food and drink, medication, tobacco, everything that can be sold and transported. And when I'm being asked what kind of sensitive product should we particularly protect, well, my answer would be it depends on where you set the bar. For certain clients, that might be tobacco. For others, it might be cables, because they do not have any of these cables in their inventory, and so they need to particularly secure that stock. And to give you an order of magnitude, for certain trucks, you're looking at 50+ million euros in terms of load value for a given truck. Are we equipped to counter any risk of theft for such orders of magnitude? And ethics, that's another point which should be highlighted. When you're stolen, when you're being stolen, reputation is key. It's not just about the theft itself. You also need to think about the security of your drivers. I believe you had another slide you wanted to show us. Yes, indeed. So I wanted to show you this slide to discuss about all the actions undertaken by TAPA with, first of all, a number of world repositories. When you speak about securitization, what do you speak about? Well, there is a tool which is unique and which was launched. It's very efficient. And this tool, you can report any accident, everyone throughout the transport chain, which is great for statistics, of course, but also it's a way for us to know, for us to assess risks through the app. So, for example, if you want to transport goods from Le Havre to Hanover, you'll know which parking lots along the way will be secured, what are your preferred routes, depending on these statistics of theft. And you can assess that in just a matter of minutes, thanks to the website. All right, so maybe we can leave the rest for later. Well, too bad for you. That would have been great. I'm just passionate about what I do, so that's why I wanted to keep on going. Pierre-Antoine, is this in line with what you see out there on the field? I mean, perhaps we can backtrack onto the last slide. This was quite scary. I mean, seeing so many red dots, so many hotspots. Is this in line with what you see? Yes. Definitely in line with our observations and with our transport insurance program. Overall, for goods stolen, you're looking at 3% of claims, but 25% of the overall cost. which is totally in line with that notion of added value of the goods presented. When it comes to these red dots on the map, to these hotspots, well, they're pretty much the same for us. Usually, theft happens in the surrounding areas around airports for air freight, since we're talking about high added value. So usually around these airports, that's where cargo will be loaded and unloaded. We'll call upon transit agents, we'll call upon truck drivers, and that's exactly where there might be opportunities for theft. So I would say that our observations are quite similar. Thank you very much. So I would like to perhaps highlight a trend that's been developing for the past 15 years. With online freight stock exchanges. So here you have fraud organized by mafia organization. It started in the Naples area, and the operating mode is relatively simple. You will use forged documents to register on a number of freight exchanges, and then these companies are shell companies. They're completely fraudulent, and then they can take on loads and cargoes. So you'll be basically entrusting them in good faith with your cargo, and then that cargo will disappear at some stage along the way. So what's the share of claims for that particular scenario? I imagine that most stolen goods would be stolen by opening the back doors of a truck, right? Well, usually these are full loads, full trucks, which will disappear, representing very high values. But now geographically, the Italian enforcement authorities, investigative authorities have undertaken protection and prevention measures. So now all of this is happening in Eastern Europe, in Serbia, in Poland now, in Romania. And these are more sophisticated schemes. Actual companies are being created through other mafia organizations. So companies which have a real legal insurance, which are actually registered in these countries. They have an actual insurance policy, but they only exist for a matter of weeks, just to steal away cargoes by subfreighting, by being the subcontractors of actual fully honest cargo freight forwarders sometimes. Okay, so let's speak about the solution part of that equation. How can we best protect ourselves against this? It's really complicated. First of all, you really need to opt for the best freight marketplace and the best freight exchange solution. I would say that there are two main ways of avoiding that trap. First of all, check the intra-community VAT number on EU websites, and do not entrust your cargo with companies which have been registered for less than 6 months. Otherwise, it's very hard to identify these companies. As an individual, I have a question. You know that sometimes you should be having a doubt when you're buying something off of the internet, which is much cheaper. Well, this is really a topic of discussion for professionals. This is a problem for professionals. It's not necessarily less expensive. It's just a company will need to freight cargo in a timely manner to whichever destination. So they need to use the services of the freight forwarder in a timely manner and in predetermined conditions. So naturally, these organizations acutely observe what's happening on freight exchange marketplaces, and then they just, make a move. And in terms of cargo theft, these organizations very often will target certain types of goods which will be very easy to sell. So basically, food and drinks, that's very easy. And also in car spare parts, because the market out there for car spare parts is huge. Okay, so we spoke about Germany, we spoke about a number of countries. Where does France stand in this map? I mean, we can see the hotspots here, but you also said that crime tended to move towards the east. Well, in our work with the CLDI, we can see that 85% of crime happens on the road. So compare it with the entire amount of theft. So 85% of crime will happen on the road, not necessarily in warehouses. So that's why you really need to be very cautious as well, because we only know what is being reported. In the UK, for example, according to the official statistics, it seems to be a country that's at risk, but we have great cooperation with the relevant authorities, and they report each and every single fact and every theft. So your idea may be distorted. You really need to take things with a pinch of salt, and what's happening in France might be happening elsewhere very soon. Freight stolen in France might be stolen as well in Germany. So it really is something that's happening on a European scale, and it calls for a European solution. All right, so what do you do concretely as well in terms of solutions? Well, we have a group security department, and our main concern is to protect people. We have training sessions to anticipate on any hazardous situation, to best face any risky situation. You're going to be faced with two types of not really professionals, but yes, almost professional thieves. So these are people who will have gotten information, sometimes from the inside of an organization, and they are a little more stressed. So usually they might even become more dangerous because they're stressed out. As Pierre Delplanque said earlier, they have a gross map of truck movements, but usually that's the way it goes. And so you have prevention, security of our people, and also when it comes to reputation, we need to protect our reputation vis-a-vis customers. When you have prestigious customers entrusting us with goods with a very high added value, first of all, they have very demanding specifications, and they will check whether these specifications are complied with by auditing our solutions. So, and hopefully my microphone is working, says the speaker. We really need to be fully in line with specifications, and they're so demanding. You have all of the prevention solutions listed in there. So that's what the clients can do. And then on our side, we can implement a number of best practices. I will not go through that entire list because that would be a little too long. But then you also have the authorities. So it's all about the reputation of countries as well. at GEODIS, as is the case in large freight forwarders. I spoke to you about points of entry with air freight, and there will be many opportunities of theft indeed around airports, and then all of that will be diluted. So in terms of geography, France is important. France is a huge country for us, and major thefts usually, theft of large scale happens right after the plane has landed. And at each and every single contact point, for example, in the Netherlands, the enforcement authorities are very keen to uphold the reputation of their airport. Leuven is a little smaller, but there you have it. You have to collaborate with all of these authorities. So people, reputation, and goods, but first things first, reputation. Pierre, many claims are paid for. What are your recommendations? What do insurance companies ask for to make sure that we can lower the cost prevention-wise? Well, first of all, assessment. There are detailed assessment processes which are implemented following any accident. Collaboration with enforcement authorities is also key, but sometimes it's quite hard to implement that because you may have cross-border operations covering various countries. So that kind of cooperation is hard to come up with when you need to register a claim in various countries. It's quite complicated, and there isn't necessarily much harmonization amongst countries in terms of criminal legislation. So all too often, when you register a claim, you will only be doing so for the purpose of your insurance company. So that's not enough. We need to encourage cooperation between insurance companies, policyholders, and enforcement authorities. And when a claim is registered, perhaps an expert should be appointed and also a private investigator. And there are a few of them. And they have real expertise in the matter, and they have extensive information networks throughout Europe. So that is a tool that can really help to prevent further theft and to allow freight forwarders to prevent themselves against any further theft. Céline, I'm speaking to you as a DHL head of security. What do you do in-house to prevent any theft? And do insurance companies know what you're doing? Well, starting with your first question, as my colleague said, we implement a wide range of measures. I will not go into detail, but perhaps something has not been mentioned so far. We spoke of clients asking a number of things. Well, risk analysis comes first. It's not because my client will ask as part of their specifications that I should be reaching out for the moon. If I cannot do so, I cannot do so. But I'll let them know that I'll do everything I can to at least grab part of that moon. So we all work in the same way with the same operators, the same marketplaces. Where can you make a difference? Well, people, honesty, the measures you take following a theft. And to finish on that point, freight forwarders, they're on the road. They do not have enough insurance coverage, and they're entrusted with 50 million euros worth of goods, and they have maybe a couple of people working for them, and we're not going to be paying them enough. If we really want to win against these wrongdoers, let us stand united and work in a cooperative manner. And also when it comes to insurance companies, you know, when I'm being told, look, if you had that kind of equipment installed in your trucks, if you raised awareness with regards to safety and security, you might be doing better. But then springs the question, maybe some kind of a bonus system could be thought of to encourage all of the staff that's on the ground to do even better. We're reaching the end of our roundtable. One key takeaway for you, I would say caution and cooperation. I would say let's talk, speak up, reach out to us. We're here for you. I'm not saying that we know it all, but we have enough experience in the matter, so let us work together. And perhaps register at TAPA, right? Yes, do become a member. And for insurance companies, for enforcement authorities, you can become a member for free. It's just a partnership. Do report incidents. It's anonymous. We all have incidents. That's okay. Let us just be responsive. Antoine? My message to insurance companies is insurance policies are not just here to pay for claims. Insurance is here for prevention. And from a business standpoint, anyway, reputation is so important. Well, when in our prep work, actually, reputation was a key word, and we spoke so much of this. But in our discussion today, we somewhat moved away from that. But, you know, as we prepared, I realized that I wanted to highlight the security of our people. But here we're talking about the goods which are being transported. Reputation is very important because at the end of the day, stolen goods will require, may generate a number of questions, may lead to an in-depth analysis as to what happened, and they'll ask us for a very quick, to get their money back very quickly. Even quicker than the time that is necessary to be reimbursed by the insurance company. And certain scenarios sometimes happen repeatedly, so insurance companies might have a few questions and clients as well. Thank you so much to the three of you.